What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're going to be talking about the used car market. Now, the only thing uglier than the used car market is the shirt that I'm wearing, but let's get into it. So a lot has changed since we did our last update video. There's all these economic factors impacting the used car market. Obviously, we're in a recession. We have the auto loan crisis that's getting out of control. Record high delinquencies, record high defaults, people not wanting to spend an extravagant amount of money on everything because inflation is out of control. All these things are affecting the car market in different ways, and some ways are going to surprise you. We're going to talk about some of the cars that are going up in value and a lot of the cars that are going down. So let's go ahead and talk about the markets that are dropping the fastest right now. That is EVs, luxury cars, and luxury SUVs. Now, EVs are pretty obvious because obviously nobody really wants them, but the fact that people are worried about depreciation. So many people are waiting in line for months, if not years, to get their EV just to find out that it's worth 30 to 50% less. If you bought an Audi e-tron GT last year and you go to sell it this year, you lost 50% of its value like that. If you bought a Tesla Plaid, you lost 35 to 40% of your value in 1 year. And these are some of the things that are affecting the EV market. So if you're looking at buying a used EV, I would say now would be the time. With the tax savings along with the decreased price, it starts to seem like a good idea for certain people to jump into the market. I strongly recommend do not buy a brand new EV, especially when so many of them are basically getting dropped at the auction for next to nothing. I just saw a Fisker Ocean go for like $23,000 or $24,000 at auction this morning, which is absolutely crazy. So you're starting to see all these EVs start to pile up. Now, not only does this affect the ones that are 1 to 2 years old, if you're looking for maybe one that's 3 to 5 years old, I'm seeing some of the EVs in our areas going for under $15K, which is a pretty good deal, I think, if you're looking for something to just buzz around town and you don't need to drive long distances. I think that the EV market is going to get more competitive as we go on because I believe that EVs are like cell phones. Everybody's going to want the latest, greatest thing. So I think there's going to be a lot of good deals on used EVs coming up here soon. Now, the next two obviously are luxury SUVs and cars. The reason why I think this segment got so hit and why it's going down so fast is this is one of the fastest rising sectors with so much people just going nuts because they had all this extra money. How many people you know that were broke that are driving a Mercedes, a Cadillac, a Lexus, an Audi? I met so many people that were buying these things. I remember the guy at 7-Eleven at the gas station I go visit every time bought an $85,000 Genesis. I can't remember the name of it. It's the SUV, the luxury SUV. You know, he should have never bought that car, but now that car is probably worth 50% of what he bought it for. So as this inflated market got nuts, banks started realizing that, you know, the market wasn't there, so they stopped lending on these cars. Once the banks kind of pulled the strings and said, you know what, we're not going to give you 150, 160% LTV, they started walking it back. They'd rather have regular cars that are going to last longer with less maintenance. So what did this do? This impacted the market where now you can't buy some of these crazy SUVs and luxury cars for top dollar. They're starting to wind them down. Most Americans don't have the massive down payments that banks are going to require when it comes to these types of luxury cars. I've noticed that companies like Westlake, Ally Finance, a few of these other ones don't want to do those cars unless you have a big down payment. Now here's a segment that's kind of in the middle, but it's all over the place. It's full size and small pickups. Now I'm watching full size pickups drop fairly quickly because of the supply and demand. A lot of people don't want to pay for big V8s because gas is expensive. Insurance is damn near tripled since 2020. And the fact that everybody wants a smaller truck. So as we start looking at some of these other trucks, I'm seeing deals on a lot of the Fords, a lot of the Dodges, Tundras, and some of these other ones. But if you're looking at some of these like Rangers, the Tacomas, and some of these other small trucks, they're absolutely ridiculous. They're going up, and it's not the new ones. It's the actual used ones that are older that are starting to creep their way up because I think the new ones were so out of touch because most of these new cars are 30% more expensive than when they were in 2019 is the gap between new and used is slowly tightening up because people are having to pay more money for an older car so they don't have to pay an extreme amount of money for a brand new car. And so this is causing trucks to really have this crazy market where I've seen in different states and different cities completely different amounts. So please chime in the comments section if you see this in your area. I've seen, like I said, full-size pickups going for cheaper than some of these smaller pickup trucks, which is absolutely crazy. And then on top of that, I've seen some of these used ones actually go up in pricing, which is nuts. I remember seeing a 2-year Tacoma for going almost as much as a brand new Tacoma. I don't understand why. That's just the way the market is. Unfortunately, I think people are still stupid enough to pay these high prices because they got so used to paying $10,000, $20,000 over MSRP that they figured maybe being $5,000 below a new car gives them a better advantage or being a better deal, but it's really not. So my advice, if you're looking for a truck, this is the only one where I'm going to tell you to go look for something actually new. There are so many manufacturers that are offering crazy incentives to move these vehicles. I've seen stuff anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 off MSRP with some sort of incentives, rebates, 0% financing. Just check around in your area, and then on top of that, if they don't have it in your area, come look at Vegas, California, some of the places in Texas. If there's no deals in your area, there's a lot of companies outside of your place that probably has tons of inventory that they love to get rid of. Now let's talk a little bit about the exotic car market. Exotic car market once again has been hit really hard because nobody can qualify for the financing. Now traditionally when you bought an exotic car, you had to have several loans to build up to this $100,000 to $300,000 loan. But during the pandemic, they threw those rules out of the way, and then everybody and their grandma got a Lamborghini, which was absolutely crazy. I saw people that literally had a $30,000 Honda Accord and just jumped up to $100,000 to $200,000 exotic car. It makes absolutely no sense. These are some of the highest defaulting exotic loans that ever happened. So now that banks are seeing this, they're starting to go back up to their normal requirements where they will not let you get a $200,000 car unless you've had maybe $100,000 or $150,000 car loan that you paid on for 2 years. We're going to start seeing this trend more and more as we move forward. But because of these higher restrictions, just like the luxury cars, banks do not want to give anybody money on them unless you're a well-qualified buyer. Even when I called Ally, I've had 2 loans paid off at Ally. They will not finance a car over $150,000 anymore because they've been getting absolutely burned. So when it comes to looking for an exotic car, be patient. Do not pay the overhyped prices. I still see Lamborghini Huracans for $50,000 over MSRP. Don't do it. I'm watching these things drop. I watched the Storado damn near fall off a cliff. I've seen a few Huracans going way under wholesale now. So we're starting to see the market correct itself when it comes to these because believe it or not, all the expensive cars are going to start to go down a lot faster like we talked about in our first video, but all the cheaper cars are going up. And speaking of that, now we're going to segue into the most crazy, volatile market there is. That is cars under $15,000. So I hope you guys are sitting down because some of the numbers we're going to go over are absolutely crazy. Now, my last video, I talked about how I stopped buying any car over $15,000. I wanted to stay under that because I believe that's where the market was going. And sure enough, our gamble paid off. All these cheap cars under $15,000, especially under $10,000, have gone up anywhere from 20 to 35%, which is absolutely ridiculous. And in some cases, under $5,000 is actually doubled. A bunch of these like 2003 to 2006 Chevy Tahoes and Yukons. Very popular car, bulletproof, great for families, something that we like to buy just to kind of throw people in. Now, we're buying these things all day long for $1,500 to $2,000 and then turning around and selling them for about $3,000 to $4,000 at auction. But since then, now they're going for about $3,000 to $8,000 at auction, depending on the features, miles, and everything else. So we saw that market almost double. One market that has completely doubled is cheap, affordable Japanese cars. Now, I had a bunch of really cheap 2001 Toyota Corollas. They're all lined up in the row. If you can see some of my other videos, looks like a pack of Skittles. I think I had a Corolla in every color. Most of those cars we bought for $1,200 to $1,500, and we were expecting to sell for maybe $3,000 at auction. Now those cars at auction are going between $4,400 and $4,700. A 2001 Toyota Corolla, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think the only reason people are actually overpaying for this is because they know that there's nothing else out there that they can get into. They need something cheap and affordable. Another one that's been absolutely crazy is cheap, affordable trucks. We had a few Rangers, a few Nissan Frontiers, some of the Toyota pickup trucks. They've literally doubled, if not tripled, in value. We have I think it was a 2006 Nissan Frontier that we bought with like a bad head gasket for like $1,500. We fixed it. I think we're all into it, maybe $2,300, and we winded up taking it to the auction, and somebody paid us $5,500 for it. I was expecting to get maybe $33,000 maybe $3,000, but that just shows you that people are willing to overpay. And Ford Rangers have gone absolutely crazy. Those are one of my favorite small pickups. We had about 4 or 5 of them, and I gave them to a bunch of my friends' dealerships here in Las Vegas and told them to sell them. I was like, look, I'm into these things like $2-3 grand. Just give me like $4,000 to $5,000 and we'll go ahead and do it. And once they posted them up, they were getting offers between $6,000 to $7,000 for these things. So we winded up actually making almost double than what we originally thought. And the market kept moving. So we actually priced them low, and people started competing and outbidding each other to get these cheap, affordable cars. And that's how we knew that the market is definitely going in this direction. Now, if you're looking for something that's very cheap, unfortunately, unless you get something that's damaged, has issues, you're probably not going to get a good deal, because as I'm starting to see it now, that competition between $5,000 and below is extremely fierce. It's almost impossible, and there's a lot of turds you have to go through to find one decent car. 7 to 10 is still crazy, but not that bad. And then 10 to 15 is actually really, really crazy, because that's like the sweet spot for cars that are maybe a few years older, but not the miles are so crazy, maybe 80, 90,000 miles, newer cars that people want to get into to keep either a low payment or they can buy cash outright. So this market, I believe, is going to be the most volatile. I believe next quarter, these cars are probably going to jump up another 10 to 15%, because as we keep rolling into this recession and banks keep getting tighter and tighter, and all these people that are getting their shit repoed are going to have to get something to drive. So if you're a dealer watching this, buy cheap cars. If you're a car flipper and you just want to make a few bucks, buy every cheap car you could possibly buy. I literally gave instructions to all my people. Any car that runs and drives that's $1,500, we're literally going to buy it, sit on it, and then take it to the auction here next quarter. It's just going to be absolutely ridiculous. And I want to share this with you guys so this way you know, because now it's getting back to the predictable markets. If you watch some of my older videos, I always was pretty much spot on how the markets went. But during the pandemic, it was very hard because people were just nuts. Government was printing out a bunch of free money. Banks were losing their minds, lending to everybody. Back to the stuff that us dealers and some of these automotive professionals can really guess and estimate how the market is going. So my advice is, if you have an expensive car, get rid of it now while the book is still up there, and start looking at something maybe cheap to get into for a little bit to ride that wave. Because I think if you buy a cheap Toyota Corolla for a year and you drive it, it's probably going to go up in value. And then the car that you were basically driving before, you could probably buy it after a year for cheaper than what you bought this last one. But that's what I did. All my expensive cars, except my G6x6, I've gotten rid of, because I still think that the market is going to crash. Not crash. I shouldn't say crash. Correct. I still think it's correcting. It's dropping down pretty quickly. And even though, like I said, you see dealers with still high prices, don't believe the hype. I guarantee you those cars are sitting there. Every day you can look at Car Gurus and see the days on market going up and up. My advice, anytime you see a car over 90 days, lowball the hell out of them, because that car needs to get off that flooring line or that line of credit. Dealers need to get rid of it. So don't look at any car that only has maybe 10 days on the market and try to make a low offer. You're never going to get it. Just look at the cars that have been there for more than 90 days, and I promise you get a good deal. But anyways, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the content and learned anything, please like and subscribe. We're on the road to 500K. Also, if you could do me a huge favor and follow me on Instagram, I do a bunch of crazy stuff there. And if you want to see some of our deals, sometimes we post them out at other dealerships. You can find them there as well. Also, in the description below, there's a link to our website. Join our online community. We do weekly Q&A sessions with everybody, talk about automotive professionals, what's happening in the market, all kinds of fun stuff. Also, if you want to learn how to be a dealer, flip cars, or start a rental car company, we have all those fun online classes and more, and we'll see you next video.